fire, never tame. Let's Postgame show brings a flame.
And we are live right here on the New York Mets post-game show. It's your host, CP. Rob might be joining us in a little bit, as we all know that he is in Houston for opening day, as he had to just witness this 3-1 loss in game one. That is now back-to-back losses on opening day for the New York Mets, as Gary said on the broadcast, for the first time in just about a quarter century. What's up, everyone? We have a lot to discuss in this post game. Again, not the way that you want to start off the season, but again, it's just game one, as people are saying in the chat as well. We'll talk about some of the positives. We'll talk about a lot of what I thought was the negatives in today's ball game. A lot of lethargicness, I would say, is the word that I would use. Before we fully get into this post game, as always, this is the first regular season post-game stream of 2025. It is awesome to be back. It's not awesome to be talking about a loss, but as you all know, on my channel and on Rob's channel, we talk about both wins and losses and we break it down. So before we break it down, please do smash on those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to both of our channels, and also comment your thoughts and opinions down below and in the live chat, whether you're listening live or whether you're going to be listening at a future date, a future time. As always, just subscribe to the channel. We definitely appreciate that. This is the post-game show you want to be a part of. We read comments, we respond to comments, and we will talk about all of the wins and losses that will be coming for the New York Mets in 2025. All right, 3-1 is your final score. You see the box score at the top right of your screen. 7 hits for the Houston Astros, 5 hits for the New York Mets. They were really just struggling to get things going off of Framber Valdez. For those of y'all who joined in on the pregame stream about noon Eastern Standard Time earlier today between Rob and myself, we talked about the necessity of getting Framber Valdez working and getting the pitch count up so that he's not allowed, right? And he can't go into the 7th inning in a scoreless ball game, which is exactly what he did in today's ball game. And I had a feeling that something like this was going to happen as soon as Gary said, "Oh, there's no starting pitcher last season that went this deep into the ball game." I think he said past 6 innings, and sure enough, Framber Valdez does just that on opening day. Taking into account some of the pitch limits and pitch count limits that some of these pitchers and these teams are imposing on these pitchers. But, Framber Valdez was doing a great job in terms of keeping the Mets hitters off balance. And I use the word lethargic as it pertained to the Mets offense, right? But they also looked very antsy at the same time. It was like this perfect blend of lethargicness and also antsiness up there at the plate, swinging at some pitches that they definitely shouldn't have been swinging at. I mean, we could talk about the umpire. He was pretty even, I would say, from what I assessed, for both teams. So the umpire was really a non-factor, and it just came out, of this ball game that the Houston Astros made less mistakes on pretty much every facet of the game. You're talking about base running with Luis Torrens, in scoring position with Juan Soto up, a perfect, hop back to their catcher, and gets thrown out trying to take third base for himself. Again, it's tough to harp on him for that because on pass balls you take that free base any day of the week. That was the perfect bounce to the catcher. But then again, when you're making this argument from the other side of the fence, you got to understand that who's at home plate, who's up at bat for the New York Mets. It's Juan Soto, and you never want to run yourself out of an inning, which is what Luis Torrens basically did in that inning. Talk about the pitching side of things. I'll put up the box score here in just a second. It's not on the screen. That's something that we're going to have to work through in terms of maybe adjusting this graphic to have a little bit of a box score here alongside this, but I do have a little bit of an overlay. And also pitching. I mean, Framber Valdez outworked Clay Holmes as well. And I know that's what a lot of Mets fans are going to want to talk about in this post-game show, is about the performance of Clay Holmes, because, he wasn't bad. 3 innings or 3 runs, 3 earned runs, and 4 2/3 innings pitched. It wasn't a terrible performance. He kept the Mets in the ball game. The offense really has a lot more of the blame, if not equal blame, not putting up enough runs in terms of some insurance for Clay Holmes, but it was clear. It was very clear that Clay Holmes did not have his best stuff, and we did not have the version of spring training Clay Holmes out there on the mound in this game. And let's just take a look at the actual box score and the outlook for Clay Holmes in this game. As I just mentioned, 4 2/3 innings pitched, 89 pitches before Carlos Mendoza went out there and put in Huascar Brazaban, who I want to talk about here in just a second because he was absolutely phenomenal. 2 earned runs, 3 runs total while Clay Holmes was in the game. Of course, Luis Angel Acuna had that error, the throwing error on what was a routine double play from the looks of it. I'm not really sure if the batter was hustling down the first base line, but it looks like, at least it looked like it was going to be a routine play started by Francisco Lindor and turned by Luis Angel Acuna, and he just absolutely sailed that throw. He yanked it a little bit past Pete Alonso, and it gave the Houston Astros an extra base and an unearned run at that point. 4 walks for Clay Holmes. That was really the big issue for me in terms of assessing his outing. He did not look sharp with many of his pitches. The command just simply wasn't there for the most part, although he did produce 4 strikeouts as well. He did have a very, sharp slider in this game as well that actually induced some swing and miss. But again, when you're talking about the totality of the actual outing, it just wasn't the prototypical Clay Holmes that we saw in spring training. It is the first game at the end of the day. So again, when we talk about this game and assess some things that the Mets have to go back and figure out and work on, the command of the pitches is obviously going to be one. I think another one was Jeremy Hefner not coming out at a certain point, which we also talked about in the pregame show with Rob and myself. But this is actually, how it ended up being for Clay Holmes. I want to shout out everybody in the chat because we do have the man, the myth, the legend. Rob is in the chat. So let me change the screen here live in the stadium. And from the stadium is Rob. Let's get him up here real quick.
Hey,
Yeah,
what's up?
Rob.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, man.
Lovely. Oh, what a game, my guy. 10-man left on base on the first base. Oh, I love it.
Take us through it. Take us through it. When you were watching in person, what did you think of everything across the board? Because I will go ahead and put up the box score here in just a couple of minutes, but I really wanted to get your assessment of everything that you saw while you watched this live from Houston.
Yeah, Clay Holmes, I mean, he got hit hard today. Like, even the outs were hit hard. Again, I'm not going to kill him say it's his first start, but you saw what Ace does on the mound in front of Valdez. He just, he gave up 5 hits, but he hit 4 hits, but he dominated. And, it just seemed like they weren't going to score at all today. And, of course, it took the 9th inning to actually look like the show was close, but it was just not good at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Listen, we could talk about Clay Holmes all we want as well. And, there is some things to assess based off of his start. I mean, we talked about in the pregame stream, right, before you headed out to the ballpark, like this is a real tough lineup from the Houston Astros. I mean, really 1 through 9, but if you want to make the case for it, 1 through 7. And we saw when the Houston Astros struck first, it was in large part due to some awesome piece of hitting by Cam Smith, their rookie, the opposite way, and he gets it past Alonso, and boom, they'll have first and third with 1 out, and now they're in striking distance. Now, again, I just think that if I had to really assess this game at face value head on, I would just say that the Houston Astros made less of the small mistakes, right, than the Mets did. Through and through. Before you joined the stream, I talked about the base running kind of blunder at the end of the day. It took a perfect bounce back to the catcher, but Luis Torrens basically running the Mets out of an inning. We talked about the differences between Clay Holmes and Framber Valdez. Really, we talked about the pitching all offseason long, and Rob, I know that you kind of have to take a victory lap in this one because this is what happens. This is the prototypical game of a team that has a true solidified ace versus one that doesn't. And you see the result in this game right here based off the 2 box scores and the actual pitching outlook. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. Again, not a terrible start. The efficiency wasn't there. We talked about that was a key for Clay Holmes in this game was the efficiency, but Framber Valdez was perfect, almost perfect, right? He was efficient, and he, reaps the benefits of that with 7 scoreless innings, which is awesome if you're a Houston Astros fan.
Yeah, and, with one photo up, you can't get that third out at third base with Perez. That was bad. And I apologize if I'm choppy because I'm walking down the stairs right now, but yeah, it was a poor performance all around to be quite honest with you. Like it didn't seem like it seemed like they started the game like 16 innings too late. It just felt that way. Like the Astros were for the most part on point, but other than that, it was just a frustrating game. And I was with a couple of my friends, obviously, with the guys that I'm with now, and we were just like, we look at each other like, oh, another man left on base, another man left on base. But again, when you have an ace on the mound that, is efficient with his pitches and, gets the big out, and Clay Holmes didn't get the big out, that's the difference. I mean, you gave up 3 runs today, and again, he did what, 4 2 thirds, three runs. At the end of the day, it's not bad. You should win the ball game with the offense that we have. But again, aces shut down lineup, and they did that. Valdez and the Astros did that tonight, and the Mets had a little success after Valdez went out of the game, but they didn't capitalize on many opportunities with the runners on base, and that's exactly what happened. That's how we lost 3-1.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Listen, I'm actually looking through some of the things here. I'm going to toss up the box score here in just a second, like I said. Hold on 1 second, Rob. Yeah, I also just sent. Hey, Rob, I also just sent you a DM over on X as well if you want to check that. If you can check that, I'm not sure if you have the bandwidth to do that as well. But let's take a look at the actual lineup of it all here. Lindor, I mean, he takes the 0 with the sac fly. He's the one guy that accounted for the Mets' sole run in terms of the actual sac fly there at the end. And like you said, they just didn't take advantage. This offense did not take advantage of the opportunities that was presented to them. They had a perfect chance to get to Framber Valdez in the first inning. They were threatening second and third with 2 outs. Again, it wasn't like they had runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs. It was 2 outs at the end of the day, but Brandon Nimmo couldn't come through. And also, in the last inning as well, I mean, it's too little too late, but they did work some pretty great at-bats against Josh Hader. You start off with 2 singles off of Josh Hader, who was just an absolute elite closer, top 5 in the game. Luis Angel Acuna, draws a walk and was a 12 or 13 pitch at bat. That was a brilliant at bat, and what was a lackluster performance both in the field and at the plate for him up until that point. And then you got bases loaded, no outs in the last inning, and that's really where I'm curious to get your thoughts and opinions on this too, in terms of when Brian Abreu was in the game. When Brian Abreu was in the game, they made the switch from Framber Valdez, who was a lefty, to Brian Abreu, who's the righty. You immediately had the corresponding move from Carlos Mendoza and putting in Jesse Winker in that 9-hole to pinch hit for Luis Torrens. And it made sense at the time. If you're going to play the matchups, we know that we got a 1-pitch ground out. He was first pitch swinging in his first at bat of the game for Jesse Winker, so not really much production there in terms of that move. But then when the 9 spot comes back around in the bottom of the 9th, instead of having Luis Torrens up at bat, you have Hayden Sanger, who barely just made this roster, and he strikes out to make it 1 out with bases loaded. So did you like that move at that point of the game, getting Framber Valdez out and pinch hitting Jesse Winker for Luis Torrens at that point?
No, because Torrens actually had the one, I would say, the harder hit of the game, and I didn't like that move because again, it came up in the 9th inning. Would you rather have? I mean, again, you would if Torrens was still in the ball game and you didn't take him out, you could have pinch hit for him in the 9th inning instead of having Hayden Sanger in his first at bat in the pros. At that point, so I didn't like that move. I'm not going to completely kill it because it is what it is, but I mean, if it worked out, we say it was a great move and he's a genius, right? So, am I going to second guess him? No. Did I like it at the moment? No. So, it's a situation where if it worked, he looks great. He looks like a genius. So, right now, I'm not going to go crazy. They had many opportunities besides that, leaving 10 men on base. It's like, come on. Like, you got to do better than that. But the move in general, I thought the Mets were going to start hitting as soon as Valdez came out of the game, and not getting technically, hit around a little bit. They had more walks than anything else, but it was just not very. It wasn't efficient at all. But Mendoza, kudos to Mendoza bringing in Brazaban to save some innings because that was huge. I know some people are gonna kill Mendoza for that Terren pinch hit appearance or pinch hit for Winker. But bringing in Brazaban, I was thinking, I'm like, oh boy, he's gonna blow up. But he gave us what, two in the third, and that was huge for the bullpen to save the bullpen. And look, he didn't give up anything. It kept us in the ball game for the night didn't happen where he eventually lost.
Absolutely, and we were kind of like trying to assess who was going to be the first out of the bullpen in the pregame today because we at least thought that Holmes was going to be on some sort of pitch count. He ended up going a little bit beyond what we all thought in the pregame, but again, it was like who was going to be the first one up in the bullpen, and it was Oscar Brazaban, another guy that was a fringe roster addition. In needing. I guess I want to fill in for a guy like Paul Blackburn who hit the IL unexpectedly, and he comes in and does a fantastic job. I've always been high on Huascar Brazaban. Again, with him, if he understands and he gets an understanding of where it's going, he's going to have a lot of success. But if the walks start to creep back up with him, as we saw by and large when he was a Met in the second half of 2024, then you're going to have some problems. But he does a fantastic job in basically mop-up duty. But it was still a competitive game at that point. I mean, it was a 3-run game. It's not not too much of a distance there. But he does a fantastic job, a phenomenal job. So hats off to Huascar Brazaban for doing that. Absolutely. Danny Young puts their scoreless inning as well. Which was good to see. Really trying to get him involved with righties and lefties. I know that Gary kept on saying that his biggest task this series is going to be getting Yordan Alvarez out. But when you have the three pitch or three batter minimum at this point, he's going to have to face both righties and lefties, which makes him a little bit less effective. So hopefully we see that success across the board. So again, really, I mean, outside of the efficiency landscape with Clay Holmes, because he wasn't efficient at all with the walks, etc., that ended up biting him. The pitching more or less held it down. It was really the offense, the lackluster offense. And again, it's game one at this point. We're not going to make too big of a deal of this end result. But I'm curious to ask you, how did you assess that Juan Soto at bat? Because this was what I was kind of like curious to myself and thinking to myself, do you think he was trying to do a little bit too much up there in that situation? He goes up 3-0 on Josh Hader. Josh Hader was struggling. I mean, he was approaching 25 to 30 pitches in that inning in total. He goes up 3-0, takes a strike, takes a massive swing on 3-1 on a pitch that I can't really fault him for. I mean, I think Keith was saying he was a high ball hitter. He's one of the best in the league. So, of course, he's going to chase after that on 3-1. And then he just takes an absolutely uncharacteristic Juan Soto swing on an off-speed pitch 3-2 that is just in the other's batter's box. Do you think he was doing too much with Pete Alonso potentially being on deck and doing some damage there if he draws that walk?
Yeah, it was clear. Like he probably wanted to be the man in that spot, but see, I didn't see that pitch that he kind of like half swung at. I didn't see where it was. From my angle, I was on the right field, the first base side in the upper deck, so I couldn't see where it was. So it was really off the plate.
The one that he struck out on?
Yeah.
Oh my! It was in the other's batter's box essentially.
Yeah, I had a bad angle because I was on the right field side, so it was hard to see. It looked like he was like knee high, but okay, if it's not far off the plate, then in the other batter's box, then that's probably the worst. That's probably the worst swinging at bat you're gonna see from Juan Soto this year. Yeah, I don't know if he was trying to do too much, but you know what? You had Hader at 30-something pitches already. You gotta try to take a walk in that situation. I know you tried to be the man. You paid him $800 million. You want the guy to come through, but if you walk and you get the job, Pete Alonso comes up and gets the job done. Why not? Sorry about that. I was trying to get into a little restaurant spot.
No, you're good. I mean, I know things, you got to prioritize being at the ballpark and having that experience. I know that this one's tough to take on the chin, but you're going to be live in person for the start tomorrow that we're going to talk about here in just a second. It's not going to be too long of a post game here on day one. We'll spare you some of the boring, I guess, commentary of it all, but it really is self-explanatory. The Mets made more mistakes than the Astros, and that's that. But I also wanted to ask you in terms of the actual lineup of things and continuing this conversation about the offense. Did you notice Vientos just trying to do a little bit too much in that four spot because it was a steady diet of off-speed pitches after off-speed pitch after off-speed pitch to Mark Vientos. And it just looked like he was a little bit uncomfortable and he could not get a grasp of what the game plan was going to be against him. Now, when we
Yeah,
had this ongoing conversation about whether Vientos should be hitting in the 2-hole or the 4-hole or 5-hole, etc., we know that I was always on board with him being in the 2-hole ahead of Juan Soto because he's going to get the fastballs, which he did not miss in his successful season last season. It's only game one, and I know Vientos is going to bounce back because a lot of people are talking about sophomore slump this, sophomore slump that. I don't think that's going to be the case, but he has to make the adjustment and know that more often than not, if he's batting 4 or 5, there's going to be a heavy, diet of breaking pitches out of the zone, and he really can't replicate what Pete Alonso essentially was his kryptonite last season.
yeah. It's hard to say Vientos seemed like it was, a little bit of pressure on a big spot, in a cleanup spot, a little bit more pressure when he was doing it in the playoffs, being Daniel Murphy basically. So I just think it was a bad game. I think Framber Valdez is a tough pitcher. And I mean, you face, Valdez and you also face Hader, which are, two of the best lefties in the game, starter and bullpen. I just think he just got beat by a couple of really good pitchers. And I think that's just where it is when it comes to Vientos. I'm not worried about him. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a different lineup tomorrow. Switch it around a little bit. Mendoza is known for doing that, especially when we have a bad offensive night or day. And tomorrow I wouldn't be surprised you see Vientos in the 3-hole, Pete Alonso fourth, or Nimmo fourth. Change it up a little bit. But I think when it comes to like Vientos, I'm not too worried about it. But you can see he was a little bit anxious. He seemed like he was out in front, and that was just from my viewpoint. He was out in front of a lot of pitches, and I guess you could say he's anxious. But again, you gotta remember, this is his first opening day. So even though he came up late last year and he played 100 games, it was still his first opening day. So there's probably a little bit of jitters for him. But am I worried? No. Maybe the pressure got to him a little bit. But again, when you see him in the playoffs being Daniel Murphy, basically, I don't think the pressure is going to get to him. I just think it was good pitches on a good day.
Yeah, 100%. And I see some people talking about, as we're approaching 23 minutes on this stream, give a quick breakdown and a rundown of, Luis Angel Acuna. I mean, he gets to start, unexpected to some, expected by me. The last at-bat clearly was a great at-bat, right? And that's really what the Mets needed at that point in time of the game. But, that throwing error, before you came on the stream, I kind of talked about it, but I see some people still talking about it in the chat. So I want to get your thoughts and opinions on that throwing error by Acuna, because it was a tailor-made double play that was basically going to get Clay Holmes out of the inning. And then he had to work a little bit extra hard to get out of that inning after that. And it actually does, put a run on the board for the Astros. So it was a huge error at the time. It just seemed like he just had all the time in the world to set his feet, and he didn't. And he was just trying to rush. I'm not saying that he was like being nonchalant about it, but he definitely had a lot more time. I'm not sure if he didn't think that he had time, but take me through what you saw there and just like the gravity of that error. Because, to M Easy's point in the chat, when you're having a pitcher who's struggling a little bit with his command and trying to, work around some inefficiencies there with the pitch selection, etc., that's the last thing that as a fielder you need to do behind a pitcher that's already kind of struggling to find his way. So take me through that. And obviously a learning point here for the young guy in Luis Angel Acuna.
Yeah, I mean, from my viewpoint, I don't know if it was a good angle. I mean, you probably had great angles on the television, but from my angle, it looked like he was slow to get to second, and then he rushed to throw based on not getting to the bag quick enough. And it seemed like he was, I wouldn't say lazy, but like it looked like he was actually getting to second base, and he rushed to throw. And, he yanked it, and he had time, so he could have thrown, a peanut over there, and he probably still would have got the runner. And the ball was hit, pretty decently hard, so, but I'm not going to kill each other. It's first game, opening day. But you know what? The reason why people want him over Beatty is because of his defense. He can't make those mistakes. I know everybody's going to make mistakes. Excuse me. But, you played today, one, because of the lefty, and two, because your your defense. That's why more people want Acuna. And, quote-unquote, the 14 games experience, he just wasn't good. No, I'm somewhere else. Sorry about that, guys. I was getting this question. Sorry about that. Sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm messing up the show here.
No, you're good. You're good.
So, yeah. I mean, he ain't playing tomorrow. I'll tell you that much. But again, the reason why people are excited about him is they think that he's going to hit. But you also, look, you got to be a plus defender. You can't make that mistake. Like, I'm not talking about a ball that came up on him or a ball in the hole that he could have had, and it was just, he just didn't get to it. That was a throw where he could have set his feet and still make the throw and be perfect about it. I I don't know. I'm not. We're not going to see him tomorrow, and I don't think the Mets are very happy. What he did, I'm surprised. I mean, he had a really good at bat in the ninth, but I was like, you know what? Are they going to put Beatty in this spot? Because Beatty got his batting gloves. At least I saw that in the dugout. Excuse me.
If
And
they went lefty on lefty in that at bat, Rob, I was like, I would be shocked.
yeah, well, the only reason why is because he didn't have good at bats prior to that. So I was thinking, maybe Beatty, the hot bat, so to speak, a little lightning in the bottle, and maybe Beatty would do something. But I'm not gonna. Am I gonna, kill Mendoza for that? No. But he could have graded back to was it a 9-10 pitch at bat? I mean, and he got on base with the walk, and he started off 0-2 if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
it was a good at bat, and I'm not gonna say he redeemed himself. And I do apologize if I can't see the chat right now because I'm barely hanging on the service, walking through everywhere. But yeah,
Doing things on the fly in this post game, and that's all right, Rob. We make things work.
and it's raining in Houston because everywhere I go on the road it rains apparently. So.
Well, anyways, let's talk about real quick, because Ken is saying, surprised that I'm bringing up some of the negativity, but he expects that from you, Rob. So, listen, these games matter. At the end of the day, I mean, we talked about spring training as such. Results don't matter. It's about the process, but it's opening day, and these games matter starting today. And it was lethargic, as Ray is saying right here, and as I said earlier in this stream. So, I mean, we're going to talk about things that need to be talked about, and that's clearly one, aspect for a young player that, that part of the game needs to be worked on because no one's questioning Luis Angel Acuna's abilities. I, have been sitting up here on this stream talking about his talent for the last couple of weeks and trying to give him the shot. But like at that point in the game, things like that can't happen no matter how old you are and how, lack of experience you have in the game. So that's what we need to talk about. But, talking about something on a more positive note, I really was impressed by the at-bats from Pete Alonso today. I mean, you see the box score right here. I'm going to toss it up one more time. He gets a hit opposite field. I think is that third at bat or something like that. 1 for 2 on the day, but 2 walks. And again, just not trying to do too much with that down and out breaking ball. And really, he worked some good counts. He was patient, and I was really not surprised, but I was really happy to see the patience and the discipline from Pete Alonso at the plate. And I think that should go, noticed. People should notice that. And if we're going to get this consistent version of Pete Alonso, not trying to do too much right behind Juan Soto, again, that's going to just, pay a lot of dividends in terms of getting on base for guys like Vientos and Nemo and Marte to come through. So was really, really, really impressed by Pete Alonso and the job that he did today at the plate.
Yeah, I was impressed with Alonso today. I like he didn't try to do too much and getting a couple of walks. He got that hard line drive to right field, which is what we want to see from him. And the power is going to come. He didn't get it. He didn't get it done early on. He did get on base, but it's so tough because like there was a good at bats in this whole lineup, including Alonso. But it seemed like when it mattered, they folded. And that comes to everyone, when Lindor gets the sack flying. Lindor didn't look good today either, even though he got robbed on the first at bat of the game by Pena. But the lineup's got to be better. Listen, again, you give up 3 runs, and I'm not saying Holmes pitched well at all because he did it. You have to pitch longer than that, and his pitch count was just going up and up and up. And I think that second inning really hurt him. But you got to win ball games when you only give up 3 runs, regardless of who's in the game pitching for you. So you just got to do the job. You got to win ball games. This lineup should be potent. And I know Valdez is tough, but you got to scratch a few runs here. Again, we left, I think, 7 men left on base when you came out of the game. That's a lot. You do half of those, it's either a tie ball game or you're winning. That's the difference.
Yep, absolutely, 100% agree. Listen, guys, we appreciate everyone being here on this post game. Please do hit those thumbs up buttons. It means a lot. Subscribe to both of our channels. As always, we're going to be here with you on most days for the pregame and the postgame. Sometimes just the pregame, sometimes just the postgame. Schedule, permitting. But again, we appreciate you all being here. Smash those thumbs up buttons. Let's talk about briefly before we wrap things up about the game tomorrow that you will also be in attendance for. We got Tyler McGill versus Hunter Brown, game 2 of this series on March 28th, of Friday. I believe this is going to be on Apple TV Plus or Apple Plus, whatever they're
Yeah.
calling it nowadays. So no Gary, Keith, and Ron on the broadcast. Take me through what needs to happen tomorrow, just very briefly. They got Hunter Brown on the mound. And again, if we do a pregame, then I'm going to talk about it again, about the efficiency that we need to see out of Tyler McGill. The efficiency was lacking today with Clay Holmes. The efficiency was lacking in general with Tyler McGill in spring training. So I hope that he turns it around against a very tough Houston Astros lineup. But the offensive side of things for the Mets tomorrow, they also have their work cut out for themselves yet again, because Hunter Brown was very impressive last season for the majority of the season. I think he had a 3.49 ERA. You take a look at his baseball savant page, he's got a mix of 6 pitches that he distributes pretty evenly. He throws 96 to 97 miles per hour with his, primary fastball. He is a very tough pitcher. It doesn't really get any easier for the New York Mets after facing Framber Valdez on opening day in this 3-1 loss that we're talking about. Take me through tomorrow what you expect, both pitching wise with Tyler McGill, what can we expect, and also what the Mets are going to need to do offensively against Hunter Brown.
Oh, have no fear, Tyler McGill is here. And, that's all I got. I mean, I don't know. I don't expect nothing from McGill tomorrow. To be quite honest with you, if he gives me what what's his name um, Holmes gave us, I guess that's a positive. I guess because I don't expect more, but we'll see. Again, they got to score runs. You're not going to win ball games if you score one ball game. So that's basically is what it is. I'm sorry, we're going in circles. I have no idea where we're going, but yeah. So I apologize. I think I'm in a hotel. Yeah, we're in a hotel, right? Okay. I have no idea where I'm going. So yeah, it's just school game runs. Like 3 runs today, giving up, and he should do the job. But Tyler McGill, can you give me 5 innings, 2 or 3 runs? I mean, we should win the ball game, but the way the offense is 10 minutes left on base today, where's the confidence level for game 2 tomorrow? Because then you got Griffin Cannon after that. But we'll see.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I'm definitely, all eyes for me are going to be on Tyler McGill. I think the offense is, I mean, they're going to turn it around. This is game 1 of 162 we're talking about here. So I'm not worried about the offense. The top 5 definitely had a lot of opportunities today. You're talking about the lack of runners in scoring position. But again, what production are the Mets going to get out of Tyler McGill tomorrow? That is what I'm curious to see,
I'm sorry,
because
say
again,
that
take a
again.
look. No, I'm just saying the actual, the offense is going to turn it around. I have no doubts about that. But again, Tyler McGill is going to have his work cut out for him, just like Clay Holmes did today. And it's about efficiency, putting, hitters away when you get the opportunity to do so. And are you going to have the best command? Are you going to have respectable command to get you deeper into the ball game, let's say into the 5th inning before the bullpen takes over? So listen, I'm actually, for as lethargic, the 5th time I've said this word on this podcast, on the stream tonight, as lethargic as the Mets looked today compared to the Houston Astros, it was not a bad ball game by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, they kept it competitive, which is what you always hope for. There are some concerns in terms of moving forward, how things are going to shake out. I'm fully expecting Brett Bay to get the start tomorrow. We'll see where they end up batting him. I would say anywhere between 7 or 8, maybe. I think those are the sweet spots for him. I would expect Jesse Winker to get the start as well over Starling Marte, being that there's a righty on the mound. We'll see if that is actually going to carry over with all these righties coming up against the New York Mets. But I think that we should have a better day tomorrow. I would hope, at least in terms of the offensive category, but I really do hope that Tyler McGill is up to the task in terms of facing this lineup. Because again, we talked about on the pregame, nobody was talking about the Houston Astros this offseason. It was just like losing Kyle Tucker, losing Alex Bregman. I mean, they are a sneaky good team even still, and the first couple of guys up in their rotation are no joke. So this is a place, and I know you probably didn't hear it, but the Mets have won 1 ball game in Houston since 2012. They are what? With this game today, I think they have lost 12 of their last 13, or was it 11 of their last 12? One of those in Houston, dating back to 2012. This is the place
Oh,
that they
that,
do not like to play. The Astros essentially own the New York Mets in Houston. So we're hoping that the Mets can bounce back in this series and not keep that trend alive. So final thoughts here again, 36 minutes on the
that's the
stream. We're not gonna bore you too much. Again, game one. I know it seems like we're overreacting just a little bit, but again, we're taking the positives and the negatives both. We're talking about them both. Bounce back tomorrow. We'll assess what we saw today, probably once more on the pregame if we're up for that, and then definitely on the postgame as well. Following the conclusion of tomorrow's ball game. So, final thoughts here, Rob, as you're live from Houston. Sounds a little bit muffled, but listen, things on the fly, stuff happens. He's out there. He's supporting. He's going to the games, even on the road. I love it. Let's go, Mets. Final thoughts, Rob.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get it tomorrow. It's game one. Another 161 more of these games to go. We can complain all year about what they did today, but it comes down to tomorrow and doing better. Just better at that. We're running the scoring position. You don't try to do too much. Flick the ball in the left field, get a sack fly, and bring those runs in. Put some pressure. The Mets did not. They had runners on, but it felt like they never put pressure on Valdez enough. And I don't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But
No, I
yeah,
agree with
sorry, we're trying to tip to get drinks here. But,
you.
but yeah, it's just score some damn runs. 3 runs, given up, it should be enough to win a ball game. And Tyler McGill, step up, right? You got in this rotation because of injuries. You probably didn't deserve it in spring, but get the job done, and let's go, Mets.
Let's
Thank you,
go,
guys.
Mets. Hope for a bounce back. Appreciate Rob making some time here as he is wandering the streets of Houston, getting some post game drinks as well, which is always a necessity. We appreciate you taking the time out. Again, this is a 3-1 loss for the New York Mets. Only game one. Do not hit the panic button just yet. Again, it's going to take some time for things to completely gel. I know that's not what everyone wants to hear. I get it. We want to see the Mets, come out of the gates swinging, literally and figuratively. I understand that, but it's going to take some time, and we're going to be here every step of the way assessing it. So appreciate everybody. Smash those thumbs up buttons, whether you're listening live or if you're watching the playback. Make sure to subscribe to both channels. We appreciate it. Until tomorrow, again, 3-1 loss for the New York Mets. Bouncing back tomorrow, it is Tyler McGill versus Hunter Brown. We will see you on the pregame and or postgame stream. See you all later, and make sure to turn on those notifications as well to get notified when we go live. See you later. Let's go, Mets. Peace out.
Let's go, Mets.